greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. No sin was simply peace be unto you. We have come here collectively to make a couple of points about the killing that took place at this restaurant here in this parking lot a few days ago. One, we are not condoning the actions or the behavior of the perpetrator who was robbing the restaurant. He was absolutely wrong for what he was doing, and he deserved to go to prison for the robbery he was committing. That's one. So under no circumstances are we here saying that he should not have been punished. He deserved to be punished. Two, the quote-unquote Good Samaritan, he was within the law when he fired the first initial shots. But we believe he went from being a law-abiding citizen to a lawbreaker. When he walked up on that young man was no longer a threat to him. You have a right to use deadly force just so long as the person is no longer a threat to you. When he walks up on that young man was no longer a threat, and according to the witnesses, the gun had slid to the left of the young man's body. He stood over the young man and shot him multiple times over and over again when he was no longer a threat. He takes the young man's gun, goes back to the counter with it, and as he's leaving, shoots him in the head as he's leaving. Then he leaves and doesn't call 911. He doesn't wait for the police. He leaves the property. That man went from being a law-abiding citizen to now committing criminal acts and criminal crimes. We believe, and I believe, that he should be charged with something, because we cannot have a society where our citizens are judge, jury, and executioner. Based on that man's behavior, we don't need a criminal justice courthouse. We don't need judges. We don't need prosecutors. We don't need the police. We don't even need prisons. He went way too far. He had a right to defend himself. He had a right to protect himself. He had a right to use deadly force, but he went beyond that. And he stood over that young man and pumped bullets after bullets after bullets into him. That's overkill. That's no longer self-defense. So I believe that the Harris County District Attorney's Office should make sure that a grand jury returns a criminal indictment for some type of criminal charge in this case. Exactly what it's going to be and what it should be, I'm not sure. But I know for a fact this was not just a simple act of a good citizen defending himself. When he shot that young man and that gun had slid to the side and the young man was laying on the floor no longer moving, he poses no longer any type of threat. There was no justification to walk up on him and pump multiple shots, then leave with the weapon to come back and shoot him in the head again. That's too much. That's overkill. And so we believe he should be charged with some type of crime. And we believe that the grand jury should send a message that we cannot have citizens being judge, jury, and executioner. This case is similar to one I protested years ago. Mr. Joe Horn in Pasadena conducted himself similar to this case. He didn't have to do what he did, but he took the law into his own hand and executed two black men in his neighborhood in the street in front of his home, and yet the burglars were even burglarizing his house. This has gone too far. We live in a society where everybody can open carry, all right? But do we really want people continuously shooting bullets into people that's no longer posing a threat? I would hope not. Dr. Matthews.
Dr. Candace Matthews, I'm the National Minister of Politics for the New Black Panther Nation. And basically, I'm here to state I am a handgun owner, okay? There are processes that has to be done when you are dealing with anything that deals with a deadly threat. You do not, I repeat, you do not go and shoot someone over and over when they are no longer a threat. What you supposed to have done was that he was actually in the clear for a justified kill by shooting him like he did the first time, where he was no longer a threat, and then turn right back around, remove the gun, put the gun on the counter, and then he was supposed to call law enforcement. That's not what he done. He turned around, he shot the man, took the gun, put it on the counter, then came back, shot him repeatedly, and then turned around and shot him execution style, and then walked off. That's not how that's supposed to go, according to the Texas Penal Code. So I had to go back and look at this. And I want to send a message to all of our handgun license owners, or the ones that actually hold a gun. Do not put yourself in a situation where you can become an actual criminal because you're trying to defuse a deadly threat situation. According to this Texas Penal Code, it says Texas Penal Code Chapter 9.32, deadly force in defense of a person. A person is justified in using deadly force against another. 1, if the actor would be justified in using force against the other under Section 931. And 2, when and the degree of the actor reasonably believe that deadly force is immediately necessary. A, to protect the actor against the other use or attempt the use of unlawful deadly force, or to prevent the others from imminent commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. So when he shot him the first time like he did, he was well within this law. But when he turned right back around and went directly and shot him again, now you have made yourself an actual criminal. So no, you are not considered as a good Samaritan, sir. And you know, it was certain things that was brought to us that was saying that he was scared and things like that. But when you are in the heat of the moment, that was the purpose of the training. This is why they train you for over 8 hours on how and when to use deadly force with being a gun license holder. So I say this again for everyone that's holding a gun. This is not the OK Corral. And just like Brother Cornell said, you do not have the right to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. That is the purpose why we have the judicial system. Because everybody deserves a right, regardless of how that crime is, to have a day in court. So again, follow the law. Don't break it.
We'll not take any questions.
How the family's doing.
The mother and father and the family is really struggling with this case. This young man has had a lot of problems. This young man has been a problem to his family, his parents, for a long time. And they understand how this was brought upon himself, but they're angry at the level of force that was used. The continual use of deadly force when her child was already dead in her eyes. You can see the young man laying on the ground, motionless. From the first shots to the back, he was motionless. He was no longer posing a threat. And the mother sits there and watched this man walk up on her son, motionless. The gun slid to the side. He's pumping more bullets into him. No matter if your son does something wrong or not, that's still your child. And she's struggling real hard with this. The father is too. And they believe that this was not necessary. This was too much use of force. They're not condemning the man for protecting himself, but they're believing, and I believe, and we believe, he went too far. When you pumped the bullets in that man to prove that he was no longer a threat, when the man picked up his gun, he turned his back to him and walked to the counter in peace. So if you turn your back to the man, he's already on the floor dead, you're saying he's no longer a threat to you. When you picked up his weapon, he ain't got no more weapon. You turn your back to him, now you walk to the counter. How does it justify as you leaving, pop? That's excessive. Come on, that's excessive. That's ridiculous. This man is no longer posing a threat. Give you an example. If that was a police officer that came in that restaurant and engaged that suspect and shot him multiple times in the back, then walked up on the suspect, his gun slid to the side, and shot him multiple times on the ground. That same police officer picks that gun up, goes back to the counter, and he's walking back out the door to a squad car, he shoots him in the head again. What would everybody be saying? What would everybody be saying? There would be an outcry. This man was wrong for robbing that restaurant, and he deserved to go to prison. He deserved to go to prison. The man was not wrong for the initial shots. He was wrong for the continual shooting when the man was dead, in my opinion, and no longer posing a threat. That's excessive. We cannot allow the message to go out in Harris County That's the way we can do things. If you're the victim of a crime, of a robbery, you can kill like that. That's too much. Yes.
So he had the right to use deadly force. We all agree on that.
Yes.
He had the right to kill the guy. Some people could say, so what's the difference if the guy is dead? If he keeps shooting, what difference does it make?
Because at the least it's called abuse of a corpse. That's a misdemeanor crime in Harris County. You cannot shoot somebody who's no longer a threat to you. Even if he was alive, but he was no longer posing a threat, you can't shoot him anymore. If he's dead, that can say, well, now, if he's dead, no longer posing a threat, just go ahead and empty your clip. Walk away, then come back and do it again. What the hell is that saying?
You can't do that.
That's not that. This is a civilized society. This looks like Tombstone. This is OK Corral. We killing like that. That's too much. We're not knocking the man for defending himself, but we're knocking the man for what he did extra beyond that. And remember, he left the scene. He didn't stay.
He was supposed to call law
He
enforcement.
took off.
Yeah. He was supposed to call law enforcement.
Then came back when he got ready.
Yeah.
No. Let's be clear. Hell, he didn't even come back. They had to look for him so they could talk to him. The man didn't even stay in. He left. They had to go look for him. They was asking for the public help. Can we identify this man? That's not the behavior of a man who was a law-abiding citizen just defending himself. He could have went down the street and called 911 if he was afraid. I'm in the parking lot down the street, I'm calling 911, this happened. He didn't do all that. He went too far, sir. Yes, any other questions?
This is a story that has gained national attention, and a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen next. What message will it send if he doesn't face any criminal charges, and what message will it send if he does to the community and other handgun owners?
If he is charged, I think it sends a message that you have a right to use deadly force just so long as the person is no longer posing a threat to you.
And follow the law.
What the law states. If he is not, this is going to open the door in Harris County for some wild stuff.
Wild West.
And then what people are going to say is, you didn't indict him.
That's right.
How can you indict me? Next one, we're going to have somebody who was still in somebody's car. And they caught him and shot him. And the man laying on the ground. Walk away, come back outside, walk up again, shoot him some more. How are we going to say that man's wrong? We cannot, look, there's something called excessive use of force with police officers. This was absolute excessive use of deadly force. This was too much. How can any of us explain the man picked the gun up, walked to the counter, put it on the counter, and they just walk out, shoot him again? Really? Then you leave? Don't even wait to give a statement? You talk to the cops when you get ready? Is that what we saying now? That you can do it like that? You ain't got to remain at the scene. You can leave and you talk to the cops when you get ready. Is that the message we're sending in Harris County?
I think the law does say that a person is able to leave the scene if they believe that law enforcement will find out some way, whether that's through witnesses or they believe that police will get called in some way.
I didn't see the law like that.
No.
I've been told that one. I've been told that one.
That's not.
I was told that a
interpreted
person could leave the scene if they feel threatened,
right.
that they're in danger, they can leave the scene.
But it was no
There's
longer.
also the law that if a person believes that others will call 911, somehow law enforcement will be involved in that call, learn about it, then they are free to.
Well, let me say this.
That's not what they told
That's
us.
even worse. That law needs to be changed if that's the law.
Yeah.
Because now I can kill somebody,
At least.
and I can just assume somebody will call them and tell them who I am eventually. I'm out of here.
Right.
That's what we doing now?
Right.
That's how we rolling in Texas?
Well,
To where we can make the assumption that somebody gonna tell them who I am? Oh, they'll find out later. I'll talk to them later. That's what we doing now?
because they don't even teach you. They don't even teach you that in the handgun class, the handgun license class. They do not teach you that. What they teach you is that when you have neutralized the threat, you have to call law enforcement. Now, you don't have to be standing next to the person, but you have to be on those premises, or otherwise you can be charged. That's what they told us.
And that is exactly what they teach in the concealed handgun license class. I've taken that same class, and the most in-depth part of the class is when you use deadly force, when you use that weapon. That's the most in-depth part of the class. You're not allowed to leave the scene.
And it's 4 hours of deadly force training. 4 hours out of 8.
Next question.
In this country, we've seen where like people are arguing about a situation and then the law says something differently or it doesn't go the way that the public thinks it should go. If like piggyback from that question, if that does happen in this case, do you think laws need to be changed in this state or
It appears to me that the law that is given to concealed gun hand carriers should be the same law that is given to those who open carry, because that's what this man was doing. He was open carrying. You understand? So open carry's law should apply to also those who carry concealed handgun license laws, the same as it was. So we don't have concealed gun hand license anymore like that. You got open carry. So when did the law change about how you conduct yourself? That's excessive. That's too much. And I'm telling you, in the world of videos, and everybody got a video today, that means that if I'm in a fight and they take a stick and they swinging a stick at me, I can shoot them. I can use deadly force. And then when they fall to the ground and the stick roll away, I can walk up on them and shoot them 5 more times. And then I can walk off and think about it for a second. They walk back and shoot them in the head. Then I can leave the scene and say, I assume somebody gonna tell them that's what we doing now? The law can't be that crazy. So if it is, it needs to be changed.
Well, I tell you what, we are in legislative session now, so that will be something that I will bring when I be in Austin, as a matter of fact, on next week. So I will bring that. By me also, my other hat is the vice chair of the Texas Democratic Black Caucus, so I will bring that to our leaders with the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, the Texas Legislative Democratic Black Caucus, so we can look and see into that, so we can make sure that we don't have that issue.
If that's the law and how it reads, it needs to be tightened up. It needs to be what the law is with concealed handgun carriers. That's just too much. Any more questions?
And the guy, the customer, his defense attorney may argue that the suspect, he has a criminal history. He was convicted for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, assault on a family member. So how would you respond to him using that in this case?
And I would say to that criminal defense attorney, if that is your defense, then I will take a playbook from defense attorneys. My client did not know that when you engaged him with deadly force. You did not know his criminal history before you shot him. You did not know his name before you shot him. You did not know who he was before you killed him. You did not know his past before you killed him. You didn't have a chance to look up his criminal history, then decide to use deadly force. So that don't work. That's not gonna play. Because you got to show where you had a previous knowledge of this man's criminal history when you decided to use deadly force, to use that as a defense. You can't do that. That's like me committing a crime against someone or defending myself against somebody, and then I can say, oh, well, 10 years ago they did this. I did not know that before all of that came out. So I'm sure the defense attorney is not going to use that lukewarm defense, because if he does, I don't think that's going to sell.
You're going to need another lawyer.
I don't think that's going to sell. He has to prove that this man was a continuous threat to justify that level of deadly force. I don't see it. Any more questions? Thank you all for your time, and thank you for your presence.
Why do you believe is the DA's office dragging their feet on this, or do they just not see the same things that you see?
Let me tell you something. I think the DA's office wants to send a message that they are sick and tired of robberies and crime in Harris County. And they want to send a message to the robbers that your punishment will be your punishment when you commit these crimes. I understand that. I can agree with some of that. But I think the DA's office is in a quandary here, because even they believe, in my opinion, that he did too much, he went too far. So let's see what the grand jury says, and I'm hoping the grand jury does something. Because if they don't, it's going to get worse.
Well, here we go.
Because the message that will be sent will be the Wild Wild West. Do it the way you want to do it, even when the person is no longer a threat. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience.
Call me Doc Holliday then.